Hey guys, I'm going to talk to you about how to set up a disc golf bag and what are the discs that you'll most likely need in order to play a competitive round of disc golf. And I don't mean just to go out and play a casual round, because you can do that with one disc. I mean competitively, covering any shot you would possibly need, and also being able to lower your scores with the discs that you would be using to your best advantage. So I'll start with putters. What I think that you need for putters is I think you need a putting putter, and with your putting putter you would probably need two. The reason why is if one goes into the river, you have another one that feels exactly the same. I would buy them exactly the same weight and exactly the same mold. The reason for that is because they need to feel the same coming off of your hand every single time. One thing that you don't do with your putters, your putting putters, is you don't throw them. So then you have a throwing putter. Your throwing putter, mine is the Nova. My putting putter is the Yeti Pro AVR. With the Nova, it's what I throw. Same thing. You have two of them, because if you lose one, you're kind of done for, especially with a throwing putter. You don't really throw your mid-ranges as much as you throw a putting putter or a throwing putter, because you really loft it out there. You can get a lot of distance off of a throwing putter, such as the Nova. Then you go into mid-ranges, and mid-ranges is one of those things that once you find one you like, I would stick with it. So, and I kind of have a weird one here. You need a mid-range mold that you like. Mine, personally, is the rock. I have different rocks, and another thing that you should always do with your molds is have different wear. So with my KC, this is my most stable rock, so this one is going to be good for wind, good for throwing outright and it dumping in left. Then I have the Rock 3, and it's kind of domey, so it's more straight, and it's kind of straight, it's just kind of a little dump, but not as much as the KC Pro Rock here. And then I have the R Pro Rock, which is just dead straight. All it does is just go straight. That's it. Then I have this Star Rock, which it's a little more understable, so I kind of hyzer flip it up. And then finally, I have this Beat Up DX Rock, which is very understable. I throw it like this, it flips up, it goes that way. So what I would recommend in the mid-range section is you get a disc that you like, whether it be a rock, a compass, a tangent, you can have a buzz, you can have all these types of discs, and wear them down and get them to be different flights, and you will have the same clean release almost every single time if you have the same exact mold, just different flights. And then in my mid-range, what I think you need is I think you need a overstable mid-range that can fight the wind, because you always need a mid that can fight the wind. So that for me is the flat top Gator, Glow Gator. And then this one's kind of just a personal thing, but sometimes when I'm throwing into trees, into bushes and stuff like that, I want a really heavy disc. And it's kind of frisbee-like, but that's the Condor. And I think that a lot of people could benefit from the Condor, because you can throw huge big rollers with it, and when you're throwing into like leaves and stuff like that, it's not going to knock your disc down. So I believe when you're building a bag, you should find a disc that's very heavy, that you can knock into things and not really worry about it. And then also, like I said, when you're building a bag, build a bag with a very overstable mid. I don't really care which one you use, just try, because it's going to be very helpful in windy situations, especially where I live up in Fargo. It's always very windy. Now we go to fairways, and I kind of do exactly the same thing. My go-to fairways are the T-Birds. This one's more understable than this one, but they still both fly relatively straight. This one just has a little more bite in the end. So to combat that, I will have an understable fairway driver, which is my leopard. I can roll it and I can throw big annies with it. And then I have a very overstable disc that not a lot of people carry, but it's a whippet. And that's a very overstable fairway that you can always throw into any wind. So, like I said, again, building a bag, I want my discs to go in order. So, here they go. From this side to this side, it goes understable to straight, understable to stable, stable to overstable, and just overstable. That covers all my shots I possibly need. I can roll this, I can throw these two on flick, I can throw this one for really straight tunnel shots, this one for tunnel shots. I pretty much have every single shot I need, even a tomahawk I can throw a whippet for. And that's what I throw with my fairways. That's something to think about with fairways. And then with distance drivers, actually control drivers we'll go into, it's exactly the same thing. So this is a really beat up orc. This is a control driver. So this one, I literally go like this and it'll flip and go that way. This orc isn't quite as seasoned, and just star orc, and it goes just straight. This one I just got, and I just died, so it kind of looks like it's used, but I just got it, and it goes straight and then finishes at the end. It kind of has a little flight like a destroyer, just not as far. And so, like I said before, with every single mold I have from beat up to stable. 1, 2, 3. Beat up to stable. And it really just works that way. When I have to have a shot that's over 250 feet, I'm going to pull out orc. Up to about 300, I'm going to pull out an orc. And I'll have an anhyzer or a roller, a straight tunnel, or just a straight shot with barely any wind, and then a wind disc. And really the thing is, unless I need some bite at the end, I don't usually throw my overstable discs unless I need to have them in the wind. I usually use this one, the middle disc, the most, the understable disc to be understable, whatever, but I use the middle disc the most until it becomes understable, and then it'll fill this one slot, this understable slot, and then this disc will turn into my straight disc, because after a while that's just how discs rotate around. And then finally, I do the same exact thing with distance drivers. This is a really beat up destroyer that you throw on a hyzer and it flips up and it rides out like that. This one's pretty straight. It was used before I got it. I got it from my friend Derek, and he used it up a little bit. And then I got my Pro Destroyer, which is brand new. It's 175 and it's a very good wind disc. And I just showed you all Nova, but you can do that with any brand, clearly. So an example of that would be these two discs here. These are both Teslas. This Tesla is more overstable than this Tesla because this one was used a little bit more. So this one is going to be more straight to understable. This one will be more straight to stable. And doughiness happens to do with that, but even when I throw MVP, I think of it the same way. So with my putter, I have a putter, and then I have a throwing putter. I never putt this one, I never throw this one. We go into mid-ranges. This was my mid-range of choice. This is kind of straight, a little bit stable, and this was my overstable mid-range. I think that you need an overstable mid-range. We go into fairway drivers. Same thing. This was my go-to understable fairway driver. This was my straight to stable driver. And then my overstable driver was the resistor. And so as you can see, you have different flights for different discs, and that's how you have to build your bag. You have to build your bag to combat all the shots that possibly may come on the course, because without that you won't have a high score. It's just pretty much guaranteed, and you want to shoot the best round possible. So what I do, and what I think would help out a lot of people, is you get a mold that you like. For me, it's destroyers, orcs, T-birds, leopards, and rocks. Pretty much I could play once this T-bird gets more beat in, I think it'll kick the leopards out of my bag. So destroyers, orcs, T-birds, rocks. Then you have your utility discs, like your whippets and your gators, and you just go to town on using those discs. My personal opinion is get used to throwing a mid-range, because mid-ranges will save your game like no other. If you know how to throw a mid-range, you made it. Like, not a lot of people throw our pro plastic, but if I have a fast ground in front of the pin, and I know that I could make it with a mid-range, but I don't really want to throw the KC because KC plastic's a little hard, it slips. I don't really want to throw the Rock 3 because it's champion plastic, it'll slip. And this is just a little too beat up. This DX plastic's a little too beat up to get there. So I'll throw the R Pro plastic. And since I'm good at throwing mid-ranges, relatively good at it, it can get there, it hits, and it sits. And so I think that throwing a mid-range, getting mid-ranges in your bag is really important. But I also think that having that wear from understable to straight to overstable, prime example is the destroyers, having that wear, understable, straight to overstable, will help you out tremendously in your game. Because I know that whatever shot I step up to, I have a disc for it. And that is probably the most important part of anybody's game possible, is having a disc for almost every shot and being confident that you have a disc for every shot. That's why I carry weird things like the Whippet. It's a weird disc. Not a lot of people carry it, and it's really overstable. But if I need to spike hyzer it, or if I need to tomahawk, or do any, like a Scooby shot, something like that, I mean, I'll be using a Whippet for that shot there. And same thing with the Gator. The Gator is a really overstable mid. It's kind of a utility disc for a lot of players, but this thing does not turn over in the wind, and it does not turn over as hard as I put it, but it still flies like a mid-range, so it doesn't really fly too far, which is probably the greatest part of it, is that it still flies like a mid-range. And clearly, when you're building a bag for competition, you build bags with discs you feel comfortable with. So don't go out and buy rocks, T-birds, Gator. Don't go out and just build the same exact bag that I have for competition, because that's not you. Go out, if you really like MVP, I would recommend getting a wave and photons. Photon can be your overstable, the wave can be your understable. Get the wave at max weight, and that will cover most of your shots for the distance drivers. Then have the inertia and have the Teslas for your control drivers. The inertia is really understable. And 2 Teslas, get one a little lighter, one a little heavier, and that'll work for your shots with the Teslas. And just go from there. I really think that there's a lot you could do with any brand. It's just what you're comfortable with. And I think building a bag, though, go from understable to overstable. If you don't have all understables, but you really like that mold, buy a new disc that's overstable in that mold, and it'll help you out in the long run. I think that building a disc bag is really important. Knowing what you're doing when you're building a bag is super important, and covering all shots, being comfortable is the biggest deal. So thanks.